everyone, this is Ed, and I wanted to give you a quick update on where I'm at in the program with ATP here at RDU. And as of a couple of days ago, 7/18/18, I passed my IFR check ride. So, and first try. That was a monumental thing for me, because since I busted on my private, you know, it was something that I wanted to prove to myself that I could go in and be confident and not struggle through the program. So, you know, a lot has happened between the last video and where I'm at right now. So after the private, we do about a 20-hour time build, and in that time build you start learning a little bit about the instruments and how you're going to fly the IFR approaches, and learn some plates. And then after that, then you kind of start getting into the meat of the program, and that's learning how to brief approaches, kind of the fundamentals of IFR flying. Meanwhile, you're having to get the test out of the way, the IRA test, which is your written exam. And while you're doing that, since we use Shepherd Air, we also will take the FII, which is a flight instrument instructor, and then also you could take the IGI, which is the instrument ground instructor. And I did. I took all three of them, but man, I waited way too long. I think I waited till it was almost 2 weeks or a week and a half prior to my check ride. And that is entirely too long. So if anybody's listening and they want to know, you know, when to take the test, take it early during that time build. I kind of procrastinated a little bit. I shouldn't have. It is a long test bank. There is no doubt about it. It is a brutal test bank. I think it's over 1,200 questions, you know, in that test bank. However, if you could just kind of power through it, I would suggest you doing that. Don't wait to the very last second like I did, because what you're going to do is you're going to have to focus, and it's a lot of time on that test, on the written test, and then you have to learn all the other stuff, and then the flying. So just knock that out of the way. Anyway, got that done, passed all three tests, and then I had about a week and a half to really buckle down and get the you know, check ride stuff out of the way. I used the Pilot Cafe know-it-all, and I also used the we have a little red book, the oral exam book. That was super helpful. And then of course ask a lot of questions with your peers, your CFIs, and everything like that. So so I was definitely cramming over the last week to get ready for the check ride. We flew a couple of times, and just to finish up my hours. So I had a really crappy flight the day before my check ride, but you know, I was breaking through my minimums. I was slow on my briefings of the approaches, and a few other things, and you know, that's going to eat on me a little bit before the next morning for the check ride. But you know, I just kind of pushed that back, and overall I did well. I just didn't do great. And so the next morning, on the 18th, we flew from Raleigh to ISO, Kinston Regional. And I met with my DP down there, and we did our oral. So with the oral, they're going to ask, just like any other oral, they're going to ask, you know, about the, you know, the pilot and the aircraft and what it takes to be airworthy. And then they're just going to keep going on. And any DPE, especially with what you have on your written, if you have a couple of, you know, whatever questions that you got wrong on your written, they're going to go over that, especially to make sure that you know what you're doing. That if you did miss those on the written, that, you know, you've studied up a lot about the things that you missed. So my DPE, he definitely went over everything that I missed, and I think what really helps me is, you know, I kind of relate a lot of questions that they ask me into a kind of a story. So if you do have things that happen like runway incursions, for instance, and let's say, you know, during a training flight that, you know, you had an experience where you could have had an incursion or something like that. And I just kind of tell the story. I don't really do well with quoting like, this is 91 whatever and blah blah blah. I don't do well with quoting the specific numbers as of yet. I know I will get better at that, but you know, I like to tell a story, and you know, it seems to really do well for me, and it relaxes me in the oral to where, you know, if I start explaining a little bit about what I experience and how it would relate to an experience of something like a runway incursion, it really kind of works out. And the DPE, he liked how I was explaining it. And in doing so, actually, it kind of wiped out a few things that he was going to ask, so that was good. Only thing I would say is don't go into too much detail, like, you know, once you start opening a can of worms, they're going to dive into it, and especially if you don't know what you're talking about, or if you're kind of iffy about what you're talking about, they'll definitely start digging, and it'll start snowballing on you in a bad way. The oral, I'm going to say it was probably about an hour and 45 minutes, but went well. After the oral, we walked out to the plane, and I did my pre-flight. Make sure you use your checklist. I know I sometimes you know, I don't carry the checklist on me, especially when I'm walking out to the plane, but I made sure that I got into the airplane, I grabbed my checklist, and I walked around with the checklist, and, you know, asked him where he wanted me to do the run-up. And, you know, sometimes they want you to do the run-up on the taxiway. Sometimes they'll, you know, if there's no airplanes in back of you, you can do the run-up right there on the pad, whatever. Just ask some questions, and but make sure you have your checklist, because you don't want anything to mess up on the portion of before the flight. So we get into the airplane, we start everything up. Everything's good. This time I didn't flub anything. So you know, I put in the flight plan. Oh yeah, during the oral, he wanted to know about the flight plan and the alternates and the fuel consumption, things like that. But this time I put in the flight plan in the GPS. He tells me where to take off to, and we go. And first thing that we do is we go out and we go into a hold. And he wants to make sure I'm going to time. I'm going to do all those things correct on the hold. And then he says, okay, I want you to brief runway 23, RNAV, blah, 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 blah. And so we do that. And, you know, he just wants to make sure that I'm briefing the approaches correctly. And, you know, depending on how the approach is, am I following minimums, and where am I going, if I'm, you know, aware of my situational awareness. All those things, you know, he wants to definitely know how you're going to handle how you're going to handle yourself. And I've actually had a lot of problems during my training with situational awareness. I don't know why. Sometimes I'd get there, get to a place, and my instructor would say, "Well, where are you in relation to, you know, your decision altitude?" And you know, for some reason, I would just get mixed up. A lot of things are going crazy. You got your glasses on, and it took me a little bit of time to get my situational awareness down. And I still have a little issues, but during the check ride, I nailed it, and that's all that matters, right? So, you know, I did that. Then we went missed. I'm not going to give you the play-by-play, but you know, we went missed, and then we did a couple of other things. We did, oh yeah, unusual attitudes. Out of that, then you know, we did another approach and a circle to land, and yeah. But it was a lot of traffic that day too. So we had a lot of military traffic. And we were, the way our, what is it, Kinston Regional is, we have to talk to the military base, then we have to talk to Tower, which is a Class D, and then I'm having to talk to him. So I'm actually going, two different, between the Class D and the military base, which is their approach, Seymour Johnson as well. So I'm switching back and forth talking to him, so it can get really nerve-wracking if you don't know what you're doing. Anyway, we did a circle land, and I kind of almost flubbed that up. When we did a circle land, he said take off foggles, and of course, all you guys know is, as you're kind of sidestepping at the 45 and then coming through, I kind of stayed up a little too high, and not too high, but I kind of was I think it was 540 I was supposed to stay at, and I kind of went under the 540, and I would say, "Ah, man, you feel that turbulence?" And he's like, "I don't feel turbulence." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I do." So anyway, we got there, landed, and he's like, "Okay, shut the airplane down." He didn't say anything, so I assumed that I passed because I didn't hear anything negative, and got in, and boom, I'm IFR rated as of 7/18. Excited, and now it's time to move on. And now studying the crew procedures. Not sure about what crew is going to be all about. I've talked to other crews, and a lot of times it's a hurry up and wait. Not sure where I'm going to get to go. So being on the East Coast, I think we kind of fly up and down the East Coast. So I'll definitely tell you how all that goes. So when I get back, we'll be doing the Seminole training, and I will update you on everything there, and I will be taking my CACS test, which is the commercial written. Definitely a lot quicker than I did with the IRA test, so I'm actually already starting to study for that right now, and I've got a ton of modules that I still got to do, and plus crew modules as well. So if you want to follow me, I have a Snapchat and Instagram and Twitter, so I'll put those down at the bottom. So if you want to follow me, kind of where I am on a day-to-day basis. I don't do videos every day, so but I think I'm going to do a little bit of a vlog during crew, so that'll be fun. So for now, thanks, and till next time, goodbye.